All right, happy Saturday, everybody. We've got some college basketball today. We're going to talk about each game. I'm going to go over my prediction, and then at the end, I'll give you my best bets. All I ask, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Helps as we continue to grow. And if you're looking for a cool community, join the Discord. Absolutely free. Link is down below. No matter what sport you're into, we've got some action in there. So a lot of really cool people. Love that community we're building. If you're negative, stay the hell away. But if you want a positive, nice atmosphere, join the Discord. Very cool. All right, so let's get into this card. So first game, we're going to talk about the NIT. We're going to talk about Dayton and Chattanooga. I like Dayton here. I really like Dayton in this spot. If we look at Dayton, they've got a good offense. This is a top 50 offense. They shoot the three really well. I think what they can do is exploit Chattanooga's perimeter D. Chattanooga is ranked 251st in perimeter defense. So this should kind of help offset their offense, which not a bad offense. They rank 73rd offensively, average almost 78 points a game. Now, that said, aside from their perimeter defense, they do have an overall good defense. This is a top 10 defense by Chattanooga. Only give up about 59 points a game, but I mean, Dayton's going to shoot the lights out of the ball. We should see a lot of shots. Dayton's going to shoot roughly 40% of their shots from three. So that's why I think they can expose this perimeter defense that they have. And they have a pretty high assist rate. It's about 60%. So I would say give me Dayton in this spot. So I like Dayton to win this 76-71. I think guys like Holmes and Brea have a really nice night. That said, Chattanooga's got some guys too. So most notably Huff. I think he'll have a pretty decent day as well. But so I like Dayton minus the 2.5 and lean towards the under in that contest. All right. We've got another NIT game in here, but let's go ahead and talk about one of these main NCAA games, McNeese and Purdue. This is a tough one. This is a tough game to kind of predict. Purdue's defense is they're not good, man. They're outside, they're like 353rd in opposing 2-point shooting percentage. I don't love this Purdue team. They're not the Purdue teams of the last couple of years. So I do think they have some vulnerabilities that McNeese can utilize. I mean, McNeese is a very athletic team. They have a very defensive first approach to them. So I'm not sure. I mean, you look, they held Clemson to 13 points in the first half of that win they had. So I think they're like top 10 nationally for mid-range shooting percentage. So they do a really good job of limiting mid-range shots, which is kind of where Purdue likes to live. Where I think Purdue gets them is on the offensive boards. That is something where Purdue actually does excel. I think they had 16 offensive rebounds in their last game. I want to say it was something like that. But I think ultimately, they're going to be right around that 74-point total that the books have them at, which I think they're going to get a decent amount off second chance points. So I do think they're going to dominate the offensive rebounding numbers. You got to think about Smith. I mean, this dude's still a stud, no matter how you slice it or cut it. But I think McNeese's defense is able to keep it somewhat close, right? I mean, Copeland's going to have a pretty nice day. They're going to have to disrupt Smith. But to me, ultimately, they have a lack of interior size. So I just can't see them winning this game. But I do think they keep it pretty tight. I've got the 74-68 Purdue. So kind of right in that spread line there. But ultimately, I just don't really want to mess with it too much, right? You got to think about the tournament experience too. This team does have the tournament experience. Purdue's got that kind of offensive versatility. They got the rebounding advantage. McNeese has that just good defensive athleticism. So it should be a pretty nice game, but I've got Purdue winning this by 6 ultimately. All right, Bradley and George Mason. Let's talk about the NIT. one more time here. Not going to cover this too much. I've got George Mason winning this 71-65. I think George Mason's defense can hold Bradley to sub 40 shooting. Bradley's got some guys. What is it, like Dean and Birch are pretty good. So I think they could have a decent day, but ultimately, I just think George Mason ability to get rebounds and have some good defensive stance is just going to ultimately lead them to win this. I think what is the over under on this game? 132.5. That's tight. Not something I want to screw around with. So, like I said, give me George Mason 71-65 in this one. All right, St. John's and Arkansas. This one is going to be a good game. St. John's, dude, defensively they're stout. They've got the number one adjusted defensive efficiency. So this is a really good game. Only allowing like 65 points a game, which I think puts them top 25. I think it's like 22nd. They look good against Omaha. They came out a little rough. I was getting a little nervous because we were on the -18.5, but then they just all of a sudden started coming out and hammering them. The only thing that concerns me about St. John's is offensively, they're not elite. They're 52nd in adjusted tempo. They shoot about 30% from three. They're like 300 and something in 3-point rate. But what they do really well is transition. So they kind of thrive in transition and off second chance opportunities. So that is where their strengths at. Offensive rebound, pretty good. This is a top 10 team nationally in terms of offensive rebound percentage when we look at, your more high major teams, which is obviously very important if we're talking about deep tournament runs. That's where they absolutely dominated Omaha. So I think they match up well against Arkansas's front court, right? So guys like Adu and Brazel. That said, Arkansas does excel on the offensive glass too. I think Brazel had like 12 rebounds versus Kansas. So you got to factor that in as well. So then you've got the coaching factor, right? So we've got Pitino going up against Calipari. It's pretty split actually between them. If you look at kind of their head-to-head, I think they've had like the second most games head-to-head, some shit like that. But ultimately, I think St. John with that defense, they're able to leverage that, hold Arkansas to, somewhere around 40% shooting, probably going to force a decent amount of turnovers. That's my one hang up about this Arkansas team. I would say, statistically, St. John's going to force somewhere like 14 to 16 turnovers. That's going to give them probably 15 to 17 points off those turnovers statistically. Probably, let's say, Arkansas, right? On that side, I think if they're going to win, guys like Adu, Davis, they're just going to have to go absolutely insane tonight. I just have concerns. They have a very low 3-point efficiency. It's probably going to be 30% or less, most likely going to be less. And then the turnovers. I think the turnovers ultimately are going to kill them. I do like this game to go slightly over, but I've got St. John's barely covering this. I've got it 77-69 in terms of St. John's, but it should be a really good game. I think ultimately it's going to come down to St. John's. That defense is just elite. They've got an offensive rebounding advantage. And Rick Pitino, he's a savvy dude. So I think Arkansas is just still a little young. So give me St. John's to barely cover, but man, it's a tight one. Not one I really want to touch. Let's see. What game do we want to talk? We'll just go straight down the list. So now we've got Michigan and Texas A&M. All right, so this one, in my opinion, is kind of clear cut. I love this spot. I love Texas A&M. I think they win this 74-68. I think Texas A&M is able to, do what they do and have some success on the offensive rebounding side. Something to consider. This is in Denver, right? This is in Denver, high altitude, 5,280 feet, mile high. And you've got a big Michigan team. And I think we saw that in their last game, right? They had this big first half advantage and then they blew it in the second half. Those guys look gassed, right? We can't forget guys like Wolf, the turnover machine. They absolutely turn the ball over at an extremely high clip. So I think that is, in my opinion, will be the difference in this game. I think Texas A&M is able to still secure offensive rebounds. They're still going to get those second chance points. I think they're going to force at least 14 turnovers. I think that's just kind of par for the course for this Michigan team. So, guys like Wolf, he's going to turn the ball over a decent amount. But the only way I see Michigan winning this is if like Wolf and Golden just go absolutely insane, points wise and rebound wise. But they suck. They're not a good 3-point shooting team, and they give up too many turnovers. So I think we could see this game stay somewhat close until maybe that 4 minute mark. But I think Texas A&M, they're just going to end up getting the job done. So I've got this 74-68 Texas A&M. That's where I'm at with that game. Let's see. We got Drake and Texas Tech. This is going to be a good game. I think this will be a pretty good game. Texas Tech, they've got a very potent offense, right? So they're 21st in adjusted offensive efficiency. They shoot about 38% from 3-point range. So not bad. They do very well there. If we look at the defensive matchup, they're pretty good. This is the nation's top-ranked scoring defense, about 60.1 points per game allowed coming into the tournament, so pretty good there. And they force a lot of turnovers, like almost a 24% turnover rate forced, which puts them top 3, I think. They're very physical, so I think that definitely bodes in their favor. If we look at them from an offensive rebounding perspective, they're top 50, which they're 45th nationally, so not amazing, but they should be able to get the job done today, right? That said, Drake been playing really well, but ultimately, I think Tech's top 20 3-point shooting, match that up with their, pretty stout defense. Drake has this slower, they're just less explosive. This offense isn't made for, fast-paced, transition-based, right? They take their time, set up plays. It's a very slow-paced game. I think they're going to be at a pretty significant rebound disadvantage in this one. But that said, you look at Drake's got a 3-0 record versus high majors, so it is pretty impressive. But I just think that Texas Tech's volume scoring overall and their rebound advantage just kind of tilts the scales in their favor. So give me Texas Tech 70-64. It's going to be tight. It's like my model kind of shifts between 71-64, 70-64. I think it could be pretty tight. I wouldn't mind taking Drake plus the 6.5, but this is just one of those games where it's going to be tight. I do like the over, so that is my kind of official play. Over 126.5 in this contest is going to be my play. All right, next game, Creighton and Auburn. Man, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good game. A lot of good games on today. We're kind of getting to that point now. Let's see. For Auburn, in my opinion, they've got a top 10 offense. They're averaging, 107 points per 100 possessions. Defensively, they're pretty good. I think Creighton just gets outclassed here. Creighton just, if you look at their offensive, defensive rankings, they're nowhere near Auburn's. I just think we're going to see Auburn win this thing by probably 9+. So the -8.5, I think, is pretty accurate. I would lean Auburn -8.5 in this game. I think there's just too many opportunities here. Auburn averages like 34.5 rebounds per game. They pretty much out-rebound any team they play, so they have a pretty big advantage in that situation. Couple that with their defensive ranks, right? So it's just a pretty big advantage here in terms of Auburn. I just don't really see a world where Creighton, keeps this within 8. Just too much here. So give me Auburn in that spot. All right, BYU and Wisconsin. I love this game. I like BYU. So I am all over BYU in this spot. I think this is another one where the altitude comes into play. This is another Denver game. BYU already plays at a pretty high altitude, so Provo is pretty damn close to mile-high altitude. It's like 4,500 feet above sea level. Wisconsin is not. It is less than 1,000, so it's like 800, something like that. So again, I think the conditioning aspect, and anybody that's been to Denver, when you start doing some hiking or kind of exhausting yourself, you can really feel the difference if you come from a lower sea level place like I do. All right, so if we look at Wisconsin, they rank 26th in adjusted efficiency, so not bad on the defensive side of the ball. They don't really turnover. They don't get enough turnovers. They're 331st in turnovers forced, so that is really bad. That said, I mean, they've had a great season. I think BYU is able to out-rebound them on the offensive glass, so I think that's going to be a pretty huge advantage. BYU's got a top 10 offense. I mean, if we look at Wisconsin, BYU finds their success shooting the three. Wisconsin's ranked 203rd in three-point defense, so this is a huge mismatch here, in my opinion. BYU should be able to find success shooting three, and if BYU's hitting the three, you're not beating them. That's pretty much what that comes down to. So if we look at BYU, I mean, 37% three-point shooting. It's huge. And they're probably going to have a plus margin on the rebounds. So to me, this is a BYU all day. I think they're going to hit probably somewhere in the neighborhood between 10 and 13 threes. They should grab 10 or more offensive rebounds. I just think they have an advantage there. So they're going to get a decent amount of second chance points, right? So all in all, to me, this is a convincing BYU win. But I'm going to take the +1 as the official play just because you really don't want to mess around. And taking a money line's -105. I get the point for 5 cents more at -110. Might as well take it. But in my opinion, clear spot to take BYU, especially late in the game when Wisconsin starts to get tired due to the elevation. All right, we've got 2 more games here. So Gonzaga and Houston. This is going to be a good one. This should be one for the ages. Man, I'm excited about this game. I'm not going to bet it. I just want to be a fan. I would lean Houston -4.5. That's where I'm at on this one. But if we look at Houston, I mean, number one defense, 60.1 points per game. They've just been outstanding. They're top 10 in steal percentage. I mean, they can just absolutely suffocate the opponent inside, right? So they're gonna challenge Gonzaga's offense, right? We look at Gonzaga; they're ranked 18th in efficiency, average about 107 points per 100 possessions, but they rely heavily on interior scoring. You look at guys like Graham, he's averaging almost 16 points a game, like 60% field goal percentage. So pretty good there. Should be going up against, I want to say it's Tugler. So he is one of the best interior defenders in the game. So it's going to be absolutely awesome matchup there. I think the game plan is going to be, right, Gonzaga's going to want to score in the interior. Houston's going to deny that. Gonzaga's going to have to kick it out and shoot from outside. When we look at how Gonzaga shoots against, better teams, let's say top 25 teams, it's right around 29-30% from three-point range. I just don't think that gets it done. And if we look at Houston's offense, I mean, this is a top 10 when we look at adjusted efficiency. They're hitting like 40% of their threes, which is ranked 4th. And they're still averaging a decent amount of points a game, right? They're averaging like 77 points a game. So it's not like they're just getting it done defensively and not scoring. They're still getting it done with a pretty nice attack there. I think Cryer has a pretty nice day. This guy's been absolutely dealing. I think in terms of Gonzaga, still a good defense. I mean, they're ranked, 45th? Allowing like 80, it's close to 89 points per 100 possessions, I believe. But they struggle, they have their own struggles inside. The opponents are shooting almost 50% on them on twos. So there is some concern there. And they just kind of have I would say, a less aggressive style. They just don't get enough turnovers. 331st in forced turnover rate. Like, that's not going to do it. They're going to have to get turnovers if they want to win this game. Houston, 35th in offensive rebounding percentage. I expect them to grab, probably somewhere between, we'll say 8 to 10 offensive rebounds, should yield, let's say 10 to 12 extra points there. So it's just going to be a bit of an advantage on that front. So all in all, I think Houston brings it. I think they clamp down. I think they're going to hold Gonzaga to under 40% shooting. Like I said, they're going to take away what they want to do, which is that interior shooting, make them shoot those mid-range and threes. They should be able to force, a couple turnovers, probably going to be somewhere in that 8 to 10 turnover range, I would say. I think it's going to be slightly less than what they normally average, but you would expect that in a game like this. So unless Gonzaga is just absolutely on fire with the threes, which, hell, it could happen. We saw Ole Miss in the first half yesterday against North Carolina. It could not miss. Just absolutely couldn't miss. But to me, I think it's just going to come down to Gonzaga, good team. Houston's just a little bit better. I do like the over in this one. So I've got it, somewhere like 68, 62 range. So I do like the over. It's just an elite defense on Houston, man. And then they've just made some improvements on their outside shooting as well. Couple that with the rebounding edge they have. I just don't see a path to take Gonzaga in this one. Like I said, unless they're just absolutely lights out from three, and then who knows, they could win. All right, last game, UCLA and Tennessee. Tennessee offensively just have not been impressing me. I don't love the way they look offensively. Right, we know everything kind of runs through Chase Lanier. This guy's averaging like 17 points a game, shooting like 42% from 3-point range. And then you've got, Ziegler. But from the defensive side, they're doing really good. This is a top-tier defense. I mean, this is a top 5 defense when we look at defensive efficiency, allowing about 65-ish points a game, somewhere in there. But I just hate how this offense revolves around Lanier just so much. Like, if he's off, they just struggle. But if we look at their schedule, I mean, this is a good Tennessee team, man. They're 28-7, 14-4 in SEC play. There's a lot of SEC teams that made the tournament. They beat Kentucky twice. So a lot of pretty good wins, if you like Kentucky, I guess. I'm not a huge Mick Cronin fan. Admittedly, I have a bit of a bias to not like him. I just don't think UCLA has the offensive firepower. When we look beyond their two main guys, right? It's like Bilodeau and Daly. Beyond that, it's just not good. And if we look at when they play top 10 defensives, they've struggled. They just have not done well when they play against a team that is a top 10 defense. If we look at UCLA, I mean, offensively, they're like 91st in terms of their offense. It's just a huge mismatch. When we look at Tennessee's top 5 defense versus a 91st ranked offense, massive advantage towards Tennessee here. I think Tennessee's able to shoot the three at a pretty high clip tonight. UCLA is allowing like a 35% make percentage in terms of threes. It puts them like low 200s something in terms of their ranking. They don't force a ton of turnovers. So I think this Tennessee just has an advantage all around here. I think Tennessee's defense is going to be able to hold UCLA to, let's say, 42% or less shooting. Should be able to force a little bit of turnovers. I think UCLA is going to get their offensive rebounds, but I think Tennessee should be able to somewhat limit that, right? They're probably going to get somewhere between, let's say, 5 and 7 offensive rebounds, most likely 6 to 8 points probably. So hopefully Lanier's on. He's probably going to have to score, 16 plus if they want to win this. But in my opinion, I think Tennessee wins this 71-64. So I am loving Tennessee in this game. I think they absolutely get the job done. All right, so what are the plays today, you ask? Well, I'm going to give them to you. Like I said, make sure you guys hit that like button, turn notification bell on, join the Discord, absolutely free. First play today, Dayton -2.5 versus Chattanooga. Everything we talked about. Dayton should be able to win this game. Texas A&M -2.5. I love that today. BYU +1 versus Wisconsin. We just need BYU to knock down some threes. Tennessee -4.5 versus UCLA. And then last play is going to be Drake and Texas Tech over 126.5. Also lean. I want to lean Drake plus the points, +6.5, but I just decided to take the over. I like that spot. So that is where I'm at on every game. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.